Hello turtles, welcome to Sarah Cat and Monkey Bird's Game Development Arena, where these two order me around doing their biddings. This week I spent most of my time running around in circles and chasing my invisible tail. Sarah spent a lot of her time when she was younger doing this, and then she stopped. I now understand why she stopped. Any project or goal that somebody has, as they're trying to achieve it, they can build up and or lose momentum towards that goal. And what I mean by this is my hobby game development projects have a certain momentum like a freight train. Once it gets moving, it's really hard to stop. But once it's stopped, it's also really hard to get it moving. That inertia of a personal project doesn't really exist in a physical form. I guess it's all mental. But getting started is really tricky for me. I'm not exactly sure why that is. And it does scare me a lot for making or attempting to make a career out of making my own indie games. I mean, I'm not at the point where I'm actually going to be doing that, but I do want to get there. I want to try making my own stuff in about 3 years and hopefully making enough profit to continue doing that. I mean, I'm not going to turn rich by any means, but I'm hoping to at least make enough money to continue making my own games, to keep making enough money to keep making my own games, and I want that cycle to happen. But I tend to fall into these little traps where something major in life, such as the recent work trip that I took, changes my development flow enough that it just kills all ability to continue working on the project. So just before the work trip, I was really excited and was really making some good progress on my drivetrain simulation and was about to start writing the physical part. The physical simulation is actually feeling a bit overwhelming at this moment. It may be because of this inertia issue, and it could also be a little bit because of my lack of confidence in my knowledge of the mathematics of the physical simulation. And I'm definitely working on studying some of the physics and math involved in that, trying to figure out how to do it correctly because I want to do it accurately. And that's kind of tricky. But knowing that my development inertia has been low, I decided instead of jumping into that project, which was feeling overwhelming, that I would start smaller. So I started looking into working on my Blender exporter, how the meshes go from Blender into my internal combustion engine, which renders them in 3 dimensions. And in that process, I was basically going to make the exporter export to binary format, which makes it way faster to load. It just takes the memory and just jumps it into the game. And in doing that, I found a couple other things that needed actual decisions and didn't really want to make those decisions at the current moment. It sort of involves some major refactoring and, again, effort. So instead, I started playing with Blender. And I started by just taking objects that I made last September during my Zoom Car World 3 push for art, and I took the fences and a couple other random objects and started making a drag strip. Because this October I want Zoom Car World 3 to be a drag racing game that is semi-realistic. This drag strip environment was not done to scale. It isn't actually usable in any real way, mostly because it's not done to scale, but it got me started in Blender. I was just moving objects around. I then went outside and took a couple pictures of my 1999 Mazda Miata, being the side view and the rear view, to try making image planes in Blender, which I've never done before, and actually went fairly smoothly after a few little hiccups. I think I was not in orthographic mode, so the image planes don't show unless you're in orthographic mode and on the correct view. Once I got them to show up, that was pretty good. I also started playing with subdivide modifiers, which came from one of the major Blender tutorial guys on YouTube. I think it was Blender Guru, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I started playing with subdivide modifiers, and in doing so, I didn't really make anything usable. That Miata model is pretty much something I'm going to probably throw away and have to start from scratch on. But I did get to play with it, and it is pretty nice that you can have a vertice here and a vertice up here. And normally it would create something like this, but when you get the subdivide modifier, it's going to create geometry to make a nice little circle, like a curve between those. In that tutorial, the guy, when he didn't want a curve and he wanted like a straight line like so, he was taking and putting another vertex or loop cut or whatever right here to straighten out this side, and then doing the same over here to straighten out this side. So it really, all it did was make that curve really small, which is not exactly what you wanted, because it's adding a lot of geometry that really shouldn't be there to make a straighter edge. There's another tool, and I'm not exactly sure what it's called. It's like the crease modifier that works with the sub modifier that allows you to make this change how this thing bends. And that was suggested to me on my stream as I was just sitting there fiddling around. It was a great way to do it. Those little projects, while they didn't really add to anything long term, I think they've started getting the momentum back. So I spent Sunday doing these little things that, sure, they're going to get thrown away. But I now have a little bit of momentum to move forward, and that will roll into a bigger snowball. Bigger snowball has more momentum and gets harder and harder to stop. We just got to keep it rolling down the hill. Also, Mini Ludum Dare 74 has started. It's going to be about a month long, so it's going to end just before Ludum Dare 39 starts at the end of July. And its main theme is collaboration, the cooperation jam. So last week on my development log, I was asking or looking for people to use TurtleBrains. This week I have somebody using TurtleBrains. Toasty, the person hosting Mini Ludum Dare 74, has actually started using TurtleBrains, and as of this evening, he's pointed out several things that are a little wonky with my tutorial, and actually things that I planned on doing to TurtleBrains that I kind of forgot that I had planned. This one seems like a pretty big oversight, but you can't actually clear the graphics out of your scene. But how do my games work? Well, what I've been doing is I've been adding graphics in the constructor. And really, in my tutorial, and the way you should use a framework is adding the graphics when the scene is being created or opened. And then when it's being closed, you remove those graphics so that they're not in memory anymore. Currently, there's no way to do that. So I've added this as a to-do item, and I'm going to be getting to that. So there's going to be some more TurtleBrains improvements over the next week or so, and look forward to that. Also, if you haven't already, go check out Mini Ludum Dare 74 Co-op Jam, running by Toasty. If you want to use TurtleBrains for it, I am here to help you. Just reach out and contact me in Ludum Dare IRC, on Twitter at Timbodet, here in the comments, pretty much wherever you can find me. So until next week, we'll figure out what I do then. I'm going to keep building up my momentum. Let me know what you guys are working on. Do you guys have any issues getting over breaks in between projects or things disrupting your projects? How do you overcome those? How do you build back your momentum? Anyway, until next week, have a good one.